Hello everyone and welcome back to Newegg TV. I'm Steve and today I'm going to do an overview on Creative's Inspire T3300 2.1 channel speaker system. So here's the front of the box, and they do tout the Inspire T3300s as a high-performance 2.1 channel speaker system, basically with impressive bass and loudness. So let's get to the bottom line as to what that is, because essentially they've done some new work with their slot for their enclosures. So essentially they've done a little bit of work for how the enclosure is going to show you that bass wave, or let you hear it, excuse me. Let me flip to the side here and show you a little bit about the speaker system themselves. Technical specs for these speakers: they are 5.5 watt RMS per channel speakers, total of 2 channels, of course, left and right, as well as 16 watt RMS for the subwoofer. Frequency response, we're looking at 40 Hertz up to 20,000 Hertz. Signal noise ratio, we're looking at 75 decibels or greater than that. And you would also use a 3.5 millimeter stereo jack for the analog in. So let me just flip around to the back and show you what the speakers have here. A little bit of they have a dial as well as the different ports, and volume control down here. I'm actually going to get these out of the box to show you. Let me flip to the side to actually show you that dual slot enclosure. So essentially what they've done is add a little bit more for the air to pass through for that sub to give you a little bit more noise. So a normal port would look like this. Essentially that's the sideways cut view. If we were to cut down a port and look down the inside of it, this is what it would look like. Now here it is, the version that they've created, just to give it just a little bit more space to go through and lengthen the port, which would give it a little bit deeper bass sound. So let me get these out of the box and talk to you a little bit more. So here we have everything inside the box. Actually, I'll just start with the documentation first. So first things first, we have a little warranty information here from Creative. Next we have some safety warnings, just warning you what the different icons on the front of the back of the sub are. Just warning about not wanting to electrocute yourself. I don't know why they would warn you of that, but I'm sure some people might need that. Also, we have the quick start guide, which it will show you essentially how to set this up. It's actually really, really simple. If you've ever plugged in speakers for any of your devices and your computer, namely, you should be just fine with this. So let me go ahead and move right along to the left and right channel speakers. Essentially what's special about these is that gray and black area you see right in here, that kind of inlet right here. What that is Creative's IFP. That's their image focusing plate. Now what I gather from this is it's basically improving the flare surrounding the satellite driver to provide an even wider acoustic sweet spot and improve the sonic directivity of the listener. So basically, I imagine this would work similar to the way you would cup your hands around, your mouth, yelling at someone to kind of magnify the sound out. That's essentially what this looks like. It could be potentially. Besides that, you also notice here at the very top, this is the DSC, the dual slot enclosure, and it's actually what they're using to extend the traditional port length and give yourself a little bit more bass reflex out of these little speakers here. I'll spin it around just so you can get an idea of the profile and what this particular speaker would look like on your desk. The bottom here just got some rubber feet to keep it stable on your desk so it doesn't slip around too much. So at the other end of those cables, they're both connected together to give you a single 3.5 millimeter stereo plug, and that will plug into the back of the subwoofer. I'll show you that in just a moment. Let me show you the cables that are actually connected to that subwoofer. This would be the 0.1 end of the channel here, where you'd actually get all your lows. But first, let's talk about the plugs. You need to get power for this. So this is an AC power plug directly connected to it. Can't remove it, so that is going to stay right connected to it. Next, we also have the control module that would sit on your desk, a little Creative label there, and a little LED to let you know that the power is currently connected to it and on. And the volume control here, where you actually switch it on and turn the volume up and down. Of course, all this connected to the back of the subwoofer, where you can actually see the control here to increase or decrease the amount of bass that you'd be hearing. There is the 3.5 millimeter plug that I spoke of earlier that allowed you to get connected to your 2.1 surround system, as well as the amp that's inside of it to power these speakers. Should also mention that you would connect this to your MP3 player or your computer, whatever would accept this particular 3.5 millimeter analog plug as the source. So you'd use this, plug it in, give you this audio to this, plug in the power, and then it would amp it up. So let me just show you the rest of how this looks. Very, very small, stout little box here. and nothing really particular other than this massive port that's right here in the back. And if I flip it around, exact same thing on the other side, just flush black, just normal standard speaker box that you'd normally see in a household. But of course this is for a computer, so I'm going to flop it down on its side so you can actually see this 4-inch subwoofer here and the dust cone here. And on to the benchmarking side of the speaker overview. Now this is something we've introduced recently, so the test is basically not performed in a soundproof room. It's performed in our office and with lots of different office noises that are happening during that period. But basically, not for nothing, we basically use true RTA software to actually register what we consider a good all-around test for our speakers. So what you're looking at here is the frequency range starting at 20 Hertz to 20,000 Hertz and how this particular speaker performed on the test using pink noise. Now in a vacuum, okay, that doesn't count because there's no sound in a vacuum, but in a perfect world with a perfect speaker, this would actually be a straight flat line here, meaning that it's no louder or no quieter than the test actually anticipates. But as we get little ridges and little peaks here, that's actually showing it's a little louder than the test expects it to be or a little quieter, but all within ranges on this particular test. There's a couple that peak just above what we'd anticipate it to be, but I'll go over that in just a moment. So let's start here at the low frequency range, between 20 and 50 Hertz here. Looks like there's quite a bit of variance, but I want to mention that in this particular set of speakers, the T3300s from Creative, they're actually only rated to be a frequency response of 40 Hertz, which is approximately here up to 20,000 Hertz. So everything over here we actually should ignore, but I'll tell you that the test actually performed fairly well. It didn't drop too low unless you count between the 20 and 30 Hertz range. Here it's a little bit quieter than the test anticipated, which essentially just means that on really deep bass hits of like a kick drum or something really low in that area, it might not be as pronounced. But if we look to the right here, or through the middle of the test, you can see that the test pretty much varies the same amount through the entire test. There's a couple peaks here and there, but that's not that big. It's not until we get into the 10,000 above range, looks like probably about 15,000 range, there's a bit of a peak here, which just means that it was a lot louder than the test anticipated in this frequency range, and that would be like the sound, the hiss of cymbals as they were clasped together. So that particular sound would be a little bit louder. Now, of course, you can always use an equalizer to set the sound to exactly what you want. In this particular case, we tried to set it flat, and the test still performed fairly well. Okay guys, that wraps up this overview of Creative's Inspire T3300 2.1 channel speaker system. If you like this video, go ahead and click the like button. If you haven't already done so, click subscribe, and we'll see you guys soon.